Okay, so I'm good. I'm live. I can hear myself. So I'm going to treat this as any other video, not treat it like a live. I don't know if anybody's going to show up or not, but I just want to get a lot of things out of my chest right now. Now, first of all, as an introduction, I want to introduce myself. My name is Robert Hines. I am 54 years old and I am on spectrum with Asperger's. Okay. And I'll tell you right now, Asperger's is not who I am. My name is Robert Hines, not Asperger's. Asperger's does not define me. I have Asperger's and I know exactly what Asperger's is all about and I can explain it to you. Now, I got a message for the autism community because the number one thing that people don't seem to realize is that you've got the power to destroy the entire system of ABA. And that's what people don't realize. There's nothing more dangerous to a narcissistic system or a narcissist themselves than an empath. Now, it's been well stated that every empath out there, or just about every autism person out there, or autistic person out there, is actually empathic. And that means that we can see things, see details that other people are blind to. We see things, we hear things, we can whatever have you. And the problem is most people don't understand what they're seeing because they don't understand the subjective. The entire system of applied behavior analysis is actually narcissistic to its core. And I really want to get into that. But once you understand the subjective, once you understand what you're actually witnessing and seeing, then you're going to have to understand the subjective. And once you understand the psychology behind that objective or subjective, then you're one hell of a powerful force to deal with. Knowledge is power, ladies and gentlemen. And the problem is right now, your knowledge has been taken away. And dare I say it, it seems to be on purpose. Okay. Now, when I say the entire system of applied behavior analysis is actually narcissistic at its core, it really is, because all you're doing is using reward and punishment. All they're doing with you, with children, is focusing on you objectively. And by focusing on you objectively, all they see is behaviors, is something to fix, something to shut down behaviors, stop the behaviors. And we see the same damn thing in dog training because it's the same very thing. Now, people always reach for Lavas when it comes to applied behavior analysis. But if you go back further than that, it was actually initially called methodological behaviorism under Everett Thorndike. And one of the big rules with methodological behaviorism is don't you dare compare human behavior with that of other species. So as a result, we've got humanity walking around with a measuring stick for life, intelligence, and sentience, and we're the only ones allowed to measure up. You know, we're guardians of the land, but we're not doing very good jobs of it. In the 60s, Lavas turned around and created his own version of applied behavior analysis, and he blamed Skinner for it. Well, Skinner had nothing to do with all this crap. Skinner openly opposed punishment, and this is a big thing that we're going to get into tonight. In the 1980s, late 1980s, and I can show you the proof of this, what wound up happening is that vets got together. They created applied behavior analysis based on a man named Conrad Most. He was a dog trainer from 1910 that trained German Shepherds, and only German Shepherds for World War I. And he wasn't a nice man. He trained dogs by hook or by crook, using inducements and compulsive inducements. And many in the autistic community has actually heard that name. And if I can remember, I'm going to throw the copy of the book down below. If you want to understand where applied behavior analysis came from, read Conrad Most Training Dogs. I'll post a book in the comments. Now, understand something. What we know as dog training today is applied behavior analysis, and this is what they also define as operant conditioning. How do they define operant conditioning? It's a method of behavior modification using reward and punishment. That is a lie in itself, and they all blame B.F. Skinner for all this crap. Burroughs Frederick Skinner. Skinner himself openly opposed punishment. He actually said in his one of the last books that he wrote about behaviorism that punishment is actually the reverse of reinforcing. It actually only serves to weaken, to cause fear. And that's all I see in the autism community today, and that's all I see in the dog community today. You got dog owners right now as a result of applied behavior analysis. Same system. Same very system. Okay? You got dog owners right now who are scared of their own dog or afraid for the dog. We've got applied behavior analysis has so far killed millions of dogs behaviorally in the last 20 years. And it's a bunch of people that can't even define the word behavior. Once you define the word behavior, then punishment goes out the window, and so does applied behavior analysis. So this is the reason why, if you go ask your psychologist, your psychiatrist, your psychoanalyst, or whatever the hell they call them, you go out and ask them point blank to define the word behavior and actually explain where it came from, they can't do it. They cannot do it. They won't do it. They won't be able to do it. And there's a reason for it, because they don't need to, because all they want to do is, like dog trainers, shutting down behaviors, focusing on shutting down and not controlling behaviors. That's what applied behavior analysis does. And that's the reality, okay? But now as a result of applied behavior analysis, I'm watching dog owners themselves become narcissists. So they're actually controlling and managing their dog, using tools, using treats, using prong collars, e-collars. And now these same people who don't even realize that they're narcissists wind up taking video of themselves training their dog, and they're up there on a video going, look what I can get my dog to do. Using reward and punishment, using all the treats and tools and whatnot. And then other dog owners, as a result, are cheering them on. These people don't realize that they're actually a narcissist controlling and managing their dog, and they're getting validation from being a narcissist from other dog owners. Here's the problem, and I'm sorry to say it, but there's a whole lot of narcissistic parents out there doing the same damn thing. If you're trying to employ reward and punishment, the entire system of applied behavior analysis to your kid, you're actually a narcissist and you don't know it. That's all narcissists seek to do, is control and manage through manipulation, and that's all applied behavior analysis is. Now stop and think about it. For mothers and fathers that are actually applying applied behavior analysis, if you're in a relationship with a narcissistic person, a truly narcissistic person that's hell bent on control and managing through reward and punishment and manipulation, how would that make you feel? And yet a lot of these kids are growing up. They're being traumatized. They got PTSD. They are scared. They don't know what else to do. And then they're grown up as adults with social skill disorders. Now I have to ask you a question. I've never gone through ABA. I was always encouraged to do things on my own. Okay. I didn't even know I was Asperger's until I was 30 years old. So it was always on me to figure it out. Here's the thing. I never went through all the applied behavior analysis. I never suffered that kind of trauma. I never suffered that kind of PTSD. I don't have any social skills. I'm not perfect. Don't get me wrong. But I've never had the same problem. So why are we blaming the autism for the social disorders when we should be blaming the applied behavior analysis, all the trauma and everything else that the child has grown up with? That's my big question. And anybody that will do that, you are a narcissist. That's the reality. I've had psychoanalysts coming at me. I did a long post in one of the autism groups explaining what a behavior is. And I'm going to post that in a comment. And sure enough, Mr. I have 2 psychology degrees was the first one to comment. And he wanted to line me up. He wanted to educate me. He told me I was full of shit. And I do so love narcissists, because this is where a knowledgeable empath kicks the shit out of a narcissist. Okay? So the first thing I did, okay, you want to educate me? Let's go for it. And he was really snarky. He was really snarky. And I asked him point blank, do you treat your customers this way? Do you treat your clients this way? Do you treat autistic people this way in your care? Because he's very degrading, very, 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 very condescending. That was the start of it. And again, I do so love when a narcissist comes at me and tries to abuse me, to try to punish me, because I don't put up with it. Because I can see right through it. The minute that they open their mouth and talk about psychology degrees and that they're the expert, they just lay their scrotum on the chopping block, and I'm slowly going to cut it off. They just don't realize it yet. So he came at me, and I asked him to define the word behavior. I asked him to define operant conditioning. I asked him to define a few basic words, and he couldn't do it. He danced around, did it all. And then finally he ended up apologizing to me. And things got really, really, really weird in this conversation. He was going off in different tangents and whatnot, trying to avoid it all. But on the end of it, he finally apologized because he had a bad day, and then he blocked me. This is how you publicly destroy a narcissist. I can't destroy a narcissist directly, but you can push their buttons. You can encourage them to destroy themselves. And this is exactly what autistic people need to learn to do, is to push back, to show that you have the knowledge, and you can actually make a narcissist destroy themselves. Now, the whole thing is, this is where I get really kind of weird, because the entire system of applied behavior analysis is meant to control and manage autists. And autists, again, are empaths for the most part. And empaths have the power. Once you have the education, you have the power to destroy the entire system. You have the power to destroy narcissism. But yet you don't have the knowledge. Your knowledge has been taken from you. All you know to do right now is to look at yourself objectively. All you see is behaviors. I want subjective. Psychology explains that subjective. Your subjective is everything that you are, everything that made you into the person that you are today. All your past abuse, all your past trauma, all your past PTSD, all your wants, desires, needs, all your fears, everything else. This is all the subjective. In order to understand subjective, you need to get into psychology. You need to start reading people like B.F. Skinner and Carl Jung. Okay? And Carl Jung, again, would tell you, if people would sit down and read the Red Book, it's quite fascinating, because he will tell you the most dangerous thing to any narcissist, sociopath, or psychopath is an empath with the knowledge. Okay? Because they don't stand a chance. As an empath, I can read people's feelings and emotions. Okay? I actually absorb them. And I actually read people's emotions and behaviors very, very well. It's emotions that are your instincts that drive your behaviors. That's the reality, and I can read those very well. If you're going to try to lie to me, you better be a damn good liar in order to get one across to me. But people got to realize that when you understand you have the knowledge to push back as an empath, narcissists don't stand a chance. And that's all I ever see. I look at the autism community. I've been in the autism community now for 2 weeks. I've always been I didn't realize that I didn't think about it myself, but I was always masked. because I don't tell people I'm Asperger's. I never do. And it is, in that sense, I guess I'm masking myself. But now the mask is coming off because now I'm seeing the destruction. The trail of destruction in the autism community is incredible as a result of all this applied behavior analysis. In the dog world, we got millions of dogs that are dead because a bunch of people that can't define the word behavior is killing dogs behaviorally. Well, I look at the autism community, and a lot of these young people are actually behaviorally euthanizing themselves as a result of applied behavior analysis. They're being beaten and abused. And then they're blaming the autism for all the social skill disorders they got when they get older. This needs to stop. If you were to take a normal child with a normal brain and abuse them, traumatize them, I guarantee they're going to have social disorders when they're older. They're going to have all these social disorders. But yet we're trying to blame autism for the social disorders instead of all the trauma and abuse. Come on, we got to do better than this. Can people not wake up and understand and smell the roses? Now, the thing with psychoanalysts and I'll call them psychopaths for the most part. And if any psychologist wants to get online and do a podcast to debunk all this stuff, please. My email is robert@yourdogIsNotBroken.org. I'd gladly host you on a live podcast because there's nowhere to hide. We're going to have a long talk. I'm not a behaviorist. I'm not certified in anything. I've just had a 30-year love affair with psychology, and I love psychology. It appeals to my Asperger brain. And once you understand the behavioral psychology that you need to, man, I tell you one thing, you got more power than you realize. Because you're going to make the narcissists and the psychopaths that are running this show fight and flight. According to Skinner himself, negative reinforcements generate behaviors of fight and flight. So whenever you're in the face of something negative in the environment, especially with autistic kids, if there's something negative in the environment, that's going to generate behaviors of fight and flight. When you're in the face of something negative, the limbic system in your brain, not the mind, the limbic system in your brain is going to send signals around your body to increase different hormones. And especially to the adrenal glands, it's going to increase the cortisol, it's going to increase adrenaline. And those two chemicals, cortisol itself is actually the stress hormone, the fight or flight hormone. So when cortisol is in elevated levels, your body, whether you like it or not, is in fight or flight. And when you see a child stimming against something negative in the environment, that's exactly what's happening. Their cortisol levels are up, their adrenaline levels are up. I've even seen autistic kids that were so bad that their eyes are going bloodshot. Why does that happen? Because cortisol can actually drive the blood pressure through the roof. And when the eyes start going bloodshot, you're in a danger zone. It's time to get whatever's going on with that kid. It's time to get them outside and get them a chance to calm down. And understand, after your child's been stimming, it takes a full 30 minutes, usually a full 30 minutes before cortisol even starts to dissipate. That's the reality. That's what people don't seem to realize. And a child is stimming all the time is going to be running hot on cortisol. Well, parents, you know what? There's a reason why your child is constipated. Because cortisol will actually slow bowel function and it causes constipation. It's all cortisol. It's all hormones as a result of something negative in the environment. So what is a behavior? How do you define behavior? Is your body's response to something in the environment? What causes it? All is subjective that they don't care about. All the system does is look at you objectively. They don't care about the subjective. The objective is not causing your behaviors. The objective is the behaviors. The objective is the effect. What's causing it? It's causality. It's cause and effect. It's the subjective that's driving the behaviors, but all they focus on is the objective. Again, your subjective is everything you are. All your past experiences, good, bad, and really, really ugly for a lot of these autistic kids. That's the subjective. In order to understand all your subjective, you need to sit down and read Skinner and Young because that's all they are. There is zero psychology to applied behavior analysis. That's the reality. It's all based on a friggin' dog trainer named Conrad Most. And again, I'll put the book down below. If you want to understand all the inducements and the compulsive inducements that you hear about in ABA, it's all Conrad Most. That's a dog trainer from 1910. And that man later wrote rules for beating the freaking dog into submission in that book. And we wonder why young kids are getting beaten today by ABA, by parents and by the system, by teachers, by freaking psychologists. And young kids today, they're young children, teens, they're getting shocked. Are we at the point yet where we're going to start pushing e-collars for kids? Because we're pushing them heavy for dogs. I can only imagine all the e-collar companies that are drooling at the bit to get these things on kids. And why does it only autistic kids? All of this ABA is only being applied to autistic kids. Why? Is it to control the most dangerous thing in the world? The empath? Because all these people are narcissists. All I see, when I look at the ABA world, all I see is narcissists. That's all I see. And narcissists are controlling all of the empaths because they're taking away their knowledge. That's the reality. And once you understand that, then you got to get into the realm of conspiracy. Is it all being done on purpose? I think it is. Millions of dogs are dead as a result of this. And look at the results in the autism community. How many people out there right now, how many autistics have killed themselves in the last year, the last 2 years, the last 5 years? They're behaviorally euthanizing themselves as a result of all the trauma and the garbage that's been going through them. But yet again, when they get older, all these when they got all the social issues and they're stimming as adults, it's all being blamed on autism, not the freaking past trauma. And again, if you took a normal child, a normal boy or girl, and you raise them in that environment of trauma and abuse, they're going to have social skills too. They're going to have problems with social skills too. But yet we don't blame we don't have anything to blame them. What are we blaming on autism for all these social skill disorders when we should be blaming the freaking past trauma and abuse? I spent a lot of time in the last couple of weeks talking to people. I'm actually asking people to contact me on Facebook PMs and emails and everything else. I'm actually reading a lot of these stories. I'm actually communicating with these people. I've had a few of them on Zoom already. And what I'm seeing, man, is ugly. I'm seeing ugly, the most ugly part of human nature in my life. I've never seen the likes of this. I thought it was bad in the dog training industry. We got millions of dogs dead as a result of ABA, applied behavior analysis. Dog owners' lives are destroyed as a outcome of applied behavior analysis. We got dog owners' lives ripped apart. Families are being ripped apart because of this bullshit. Then 2 weeks ago, I stepped into the autism ring. Well, sweet Jesus, the damage is even worse. And it's heartbreaking to watch. It really is. Once again, the empath is the most dangerous thing to the narcissist. And the entire system of applied behavior analysis is nothing but narcissism. All I see when I look around the ABA world, when I look at psychologists and psychoanalysts and everything else and parents, all I see is narcissism. They're all trying to control and manage, to manipulate using reward and punishment. And once again, Skinner himself will tell you, once you read the book, punishment is the actual opposite of reinforcing. It's a reverse of reinforcing. It only serves to create weakness. It serves to create fear. And that's all I see in the autism community today is fear. And all I see in dog training, from Zach George to freaking Rocker Brawl to everything in between, force-free, positive reinforcement, balance, everything in between. Stop the behaviors. Shut down the behaviors. Skinner would tell you, if you read the book about behaviorism, punishment attempts to remove a behavior from an animal's bloody repertoire. And that's exactly what you're trying to do. That's all punishment. When you're trying to shut down behaviors, stop behaviors, that is actually punishment. And most people don't realize it. These kids are being punished in a way that you can't even understand because you don't understand the psychology. There is no psychology to ABA. I look at parents, and I'm sorry, parents, but you know what? I've read a lot of autistic blogs, and number one thing I hear is that a lot of autistics are actually jealous of Temple Grandin because Temple was actually pushed out of her comfort circle. She was pushed to do better. She was pushed to get out and explore. And you know what? That's what needs to happen more and more and more. But yet, I've always believed that every brain, I don't care if you're neurodivergent or normal, every brain was geared to be good at something. Geared to be great at something, but not every brain finds that something. And that's especially prominent in the autism community. And this is where self-directed learning comes in. And we got to start looking at self-directed learning because you can't teach these kids. I couldn't be taught. I couldn't sit in a freaking classroom. I made it through high school. I did the bare basics just to get a 50 so I can pass and get it over with. My learning is self-directed. It's my limbic system in my brain that picks and chooses what I'm going to learn. That's the reality. And these kids are no different. And let me tell you something. In the Asperger's and autism world, there's a whole lot more intelligence than people realize. A lot of these kids are super intelligent, but they won't be recognized. Nobody can recognize it because they can't match the intelligence. I consider myself pretty intelligent after 35 years in the IT field. I was tested. My IQ was tested by the military. It is up there. But you know what? I've met Asperger kids. I've met autistic kids and introduced them to IT. And even they frighten the shit out of me with their intelligence. But yet they're sitting at home, bored, frustrated, silly, because nobody's actually challenging these kids. They need a reason to learn. Their limbic system picks and chooses what they want. You just got to learn to tickle that friggin' limbic system. Try different things. Expose them to different things. Friends I've actually brought electronics kits home, watches. But a kid to get it going. You know what? You tickle these kids' limbic systems and give them a reason to learn. They'll learn. They will binge. And let me tell you something. If they find the right thing, the one thing that they're good at, they're going to change their whole life themselves. You don't just get the fuck out of their way. But that's not happening today. All the autistic blogs that I read, it's the same thing over and over and over again. I wish my parents had pushed me more. I wish my parents had let me explore more. I wish my parents had forced me to explore more. I wish my parents had introduced me to more. But that's not happening. No, they're being controlled and managed and manipulated using reward and punishment, and that's narcissistic. That's narcissistic at its core. And there's nothing more dangerous, if you sit down and read Carl Jung, there's nothing more dangerous to a narcissist than a educated friggin' empath. And let me tell you something, when the autism community and the Asperger community finally gets educated, they finally start sitting down and learning some friggin' psychology. All the psychologists out there, you better get ready to run, because I guarantee they're going to come for you. And again, if any psychologist, anybody with all the degrees and everything else wants to get online, you contact me. My email address is robert@yourdogIsNotBroken.org. Feel free. Let's do a podcast. Educate me in any which way you can. Let's do a live, because there won't be any place to hide. The big thing with autism is that people are trying to fix it. And again, we got to look at autism like dogs, because it's the same system. You can't teach a dog to be a dog. That's the reality. But yet dog trainers are out there telling people that you can. I'm looking around humanity today, and human beings. Most human beings, I got the funniest feeling they couldn't raise a human child to be a freaking functional adult. But they're being told they cannot teach a dog to be a dog. You're a different species. You cannot teach a dog to be a dog. And again, when we get into self-directed learning, you cannot teach a lot of these children. They need to learn on their own. Again, all you need to do is tickle their little limbic system is in their brain and generate an interest. Figure out if there's a spark. I've seen kids that latch on to IT so fast, and all I'm doing is giving them the information that they need and getting the hell out of their way. I'm not trying to teach them. I'm just showing them, you know what? Here's possibilities. Do you like it? Do you want to get into it? And once you see that spark and you see the intelligence for all this shit, the intelligence factor, give them the information that they need. Let them self-direct them. Let them self-direct their own learning and get the hell out of their way, because I guarantee you one thing, once it starts, and they always know they can come to me with questions. And when I'm dealing with autistic kids, I tell them point blank, don't come to me with problems. Come to me with possible solutions. And we'll work through them. Okay? I don't want you to come up to me and say, this is broken. Can you help me fix it? I want you to come to me with possible solutions on how to fix it. And we're going to talk our way through it. That's how kids learn. That's self-directed learning. Okay? But we got to stop and think differently about Asperger's and autism. Because what we're blaming autism and Asperger's for is a lot of this is the result of the abuse and trauma and the freaking PTSD and everything else. And man, I tell you, a lot of these kids are killing themselves as a result of all this narcissistic garbage being shoved down their throat. And once again, for all the autistics out there that are empathic, we see details that other people are blind to. And it took me years to realize that. It took me years to realize that my brain functioned differently from other people. Now, as an autistic person myself, I don't sit there and wring my hands over what I can't do. There's a lot of things that I can't do, and I recognize I can't do them. I'm not going to sit there wringing my hands because I can't sign my own name. I'm not going to sit there wringing my hands because I can't draw you a picture or play guitar. I'm going to take all the energy that I'm not wasting on things that I can't do and focus on things that I can do. And that's what needs to happen in the autism community. There's a lot of things that I learned to do. I learned to work on cars. I can rebuild cars. I can rebuild engines. I can rebuild transmissions. But the problem is, it was my own limbic system that picked and chose. My cars have never been to a mechanic. I'm 54 years old. I started working on cars when I was 15 or 16 years old, and I learned on my own. It was a way to make money. It was a way to do for others. Again, with the empath, we're always tuned into people's emotions and feelings. But here's the thing. When I hit IT, the first time I built my first computer in 1990, that tickled something in my limbic system. And let me tell you something. That changed my life, because at that point, I loved IT. And I started making money in it. I started building computers. And back in 1990, it wasn't so easy to find somebody to build computers. So I was actually the one on speed dial all the time. If somebody went up and bought a box of computers, I put it together for them. I installed the software, did it all for them. And I learned an awful lot. My limbic system chose to go back to school in 1994 for IT. Sorry, in 96 for IT, and 94 for plastic engineering. But it's always the limbic system that's chosen. I didn't do very well in high school because most teachers they were trying to teach, they were not setting me up to actually want to learn. And I did a blog on that, which I'm going to post in the comments as well. It's quite interesting. It's all about self-directed learning. And once you understand how to self-direct learning, once you give a child a reason to learn something, that's when everything changes. Even children that are actually mute. I watched reading a post on one of the autism groups where a child is actually, he's been diagnosed as selectively mute. He chooses not to talk. And it's a good example, because what reason does he have to talk to you? If all you're doing is, rewarding and punishing him, I'd shut down too. What possible reason does he have to speak? That's the reality. When I first moved out of, I grew up in small towns in Newfoundland. The biggest town that I ever experienced was 12,000 people until I moved to the mainland and ended up in downtown Toronto. Now, growing up in Newfoundland, everybody talked fast. We all had our own dialects, every little town. And everybody talked fast. I had no reason to slow down. I didn't even know I talked fast. When I moved to Ontario, I had people looking at me going, "What did you say? What did you say? What did you say?" Now, being Asperger's, I didn't look at people and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm special. You got to listen faster." No, I had to make the conscious choice. If I want to be heard, if I want to be listened to, I need to make the choice to slow down. The onus was on me. If I want to be heard, slow down. That's the reality. That's the learning that people need. So again, I ask you, what possible reason does a child have to learn math? What possible reason does a child have to read a book? A lot of times they're sitting there thinking, what is the purpose of doing this? There's no purpose. That's the reality. Hey Glock, how you doing? I've been sitting here chatting to myself for the last half an hour. I'm actually doing not too bad. This one tonight, Glock, was all on autism. It's not about dogs. It's all the same psychology. It's all about applied behavior analysis that dog training is, and Conrad most. But again, you got to look at these children. I mean, I found a young girl online. I think she's 15 years old. She's blind. She's autistic, and her name is Lucy Illingsworth. Illingsworth, I think it is. And she's a piano player. And she's always had a gift for music, and I was always recognized. And to understand how she learned to play piano was incredible. And I mean, all autistic people tend to be treated the same way. We're all, the radical left has actually invaded the autistic arena, and they're trying to create this idea of autism. They're trying to create this, one size fits all bucket for everybody, every autistic to jump into. And I refuse to do it. And ladies and gentlemen, don't do it. I look at people like Lucy Illingsworth. She's autistic. I couldn't imagine the depths of her. Okay? I'm Asperger's. I don't speak for the entire Asperger community because everybody's different. Every brain is different. Every autistic brain is different. That young girl will sit down next to her teacher, and the teacher had to figure out how to teach her. The teacher had to figure out how to get her to want to learn to play the piano. And she would actually sit there with her hands riding her fingers would actually ride his fingers. While he's playing the piano, her fingers are riding. This is how she learned to play the piano. Okay? That to me blows me away. I tried to learn to play the piano. I couldn't figure it out. My brain is not wired to my fingers in that capacity. But yet she can sit down and play the piano so beautifully. And this is her form of communication. Communication is not about being verbal. Communication is about being heard. Stop and think about that. And once again, let's get back to social issues. I see a lot of children today. I mean, they're being, how would you put it? We're labeling kids. Why are we labeling kids? Why are we expecting kids to put a label on them? And people have actually come to me and said, you know what, why don't you label yourself Asperger's? Because that's not who I am. Asperger's, my name is Robert, not Asperger's. Asperger's doesn't define me. Asperger's is a part of me. Why are you labeling a child autistic and then sending them out in the world? The autistic person doesn't know themselves. They don't understand themselves. They've never taken the time to get to know themselves. The Joe public doesn't understand what autism is, especially knowing that every case of autism and every case of Asperger's is different. But yeah, we're putting these kids up on a pedestal and we're telling society to treat them special. And we're wondering why they're getting bullied. This needs to stop, ladies and gentlemen. This sincerely needs to stop. Why are we doing this? Why is the radical left doing this? And I guarantee you, the radical left is invading the Asperger's and autism arena. And I can't stand it. I'm seeing radical leftists out there right now putting down RFK Jr. Oh, yeah, vaccines were not caused by autism, or vaccines don't cause autism. That's exactly what happened to me. I was a normal kid until I turned 11 years old. We never had vaccines. We got the infections. Now they're called diseases, so they can call them the pandemic. Oh, it's the measles disease. No, it's not. It's an infection. We had all the infections. We were the last at chickenpox parties. We got sick. We never had vaccines. As luck would have it, I had to spend a year in Toronto with my father when I was 11 years old. Well, small town kid showed up with no vaccination records. Vaccine day hit. Well, what did they do? There was 4 people dragged me down to the gymnasium, two on each leg and 2 on each arm. They dragged me down to that gymnasium and they shot whatever they had into me. And that day fucked my brain for the rest of my life. And it took me years to try to sit down and figure it all out. It took me a whole lot of years, a whole lot of hours in tranquility, in solace, solidarity, in my own head, trying to figure myself out, talking to myself, opening Pandora's box, going through everything I've been through, trying to figure out my own brain. And now I finally understand it. And I can actually understand and explain to you what Asperger's is to me, what it does to me, what parts of me is Asperger's, driven by Asperger's, and what part is actually me. That's the interesting aspect. And most kids on with Asperger's or autism can't do that. These kids do not understand who they are. They do not understand the subjective because all they're offered is objective. So if you don't understand the subjective part that you are, if you don't understand that all of your past drives your behaviors, okay, it's all the subjective that drives the behaviors, not objective. But all they're looking at is the behaviors that are being driven by subjective. If you can't see a problem with that, you need to sit down and read some books. Because the damage and destruction that that's causing in the autism community is incredible. And that is reality. We need to step back and think differently. And ladies and gentlemen, you now have one big mouth coming at you to support you. Because I am absolutely disgusted by what I'm seeing in the autism community right now. I thought it was bad in the dog world. I am absolutely disgusted by what I'm seeing in the Asperger and autism community. The way you're being treated, the way you're being raised, abused and traumatized and full of PTSD, and then they're blaming autism and for all your social skills. Oh no, this is not going to happen anymore. This shit is going to stop, ladies and gentlemen. It has to. Enough people are dead. Go look at the suicide rate in the autism community right now. It's scary. And it needs to change. That's the reality. I'll be back in 2 minutes. I gotta go have a quick bathroom break. I'm not going to stay on much longer, but I've had conversations with a few psychologists so far. And again, it's no different from talking to a dog trainer. That's the reality. And that's scary, ladies and gentlemen. If I ever talk to a dog trainer, it's going to be the same conversation as I would have with a psychologist. And that's terrifying. I can't believe that. And it's the same garbage. They can't define behaviors. They can't define what a behavior is. Go ask any psychologist, any psychiatrist, whatever have you. Define the word behavior and explain where they come from. They can't do it. And there's a reason for it, because all they care about is objective. There is no psychology to apply behavior analysis. It's all based on dog training. And if people would sit down and read one book, B.F. Skinner about behaviorism, and actually a second book, Carl Jung, the Red Book, you would actually understand quite a bit more. And once you have knowledge, that's when you regain your power. And ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing more powerful against a narcissist than an empath, especially one that's been pissed off. So for the autism community, you're the only ones that can actually destroy this system. But you need to wake up. You need to get knowledge. Come and talk to me. If anybody out there wants to talk to me, contact me an email or find me on Facebook if you find me. Send me a message and let's talk. I want to hear from you. I want to hear all the subjective. I want to hear what makes you tick. I want to hear what makes you you. And I want to help you understand some psychology and understand how to fight back and how to stop being a victim, because that's the most important thing that psychology gives you. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. And it all starts with forgiving yourself. Okay? I don't know what the movie's called, but the one with Robin Williams and with the young savant. It's not your fault. I mean it. It's not your fault. A lot of these kids are growing up being blamed. And for the shit that I took in my life, I was always blamed for it. I deserved it. We were raised to not to be emotional. If you want something to cry about, or if you want to cry, I'll give you something to cry about. That's what we were told. We had to choke it all down. We never got to show our emotions very often. And even to this day, it takes a lot to make me cry. But it's not your fault. But in order to understand that, in order to get in your own head, you need to find your peace. When an animal finds peace in your presence, they'll come to trust you. And that's from James French over at Trust Technique, and also potent words. And once you understand what your peace is, once you find that peace and get in your own head and start talking to yourself and start sorting everything out, that's when things change. That's when you got to go through your past, and that's when you got to start forgiving yourself for taking all that shit. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault. All the trauma and everything else. But yeah, people are living in the past. You got to go through your past. You got to put it down. Stop feeling guilty for it. Guilt is like a bag of bricks hanging around your neck. All you got to do is put it down. And once you discover your strength, once you discover that it's not your fault, and once you discover the power that the empath has, nobody will ever make you feel inferior again. And I can guarantee you, nobody will ever make me feel inferior. I love narcissists. I love when narcissists come at me, because they don't stand a chance. And by the time they figure it out, their balls are already on my wall, hanging up on the as a prize. And I can teach you how to do that. Negative reinforcements generate behaviors of fight and flight. That is a positive reinforcement of a narcissist, is fight and flight. They always fight for a while, but then they will eventually flight. And once they flight, that's it. You've already won. They've destroyed themselves. And it's always better when you get into a group of 100,000 people, because there's a whole lot of people watching them make a fool of themselves. That's what I love to do. You make a fool of these narcissists. They can come at you as hard as they can. You learn to take the crap and put up with it. And don't take it personal, because they're going to throw everything at you. And when you can take all that crap and start pushing back with all the knowledge that you have, you're going to make a damn fool out of them. And they destroy themselves right in the public eye. That's how you destroy a narcissist. You can't destroy a narcissist directly. You got to let them do it themselves. And once they do it themselves, that's it. They're done. They can hide for a while. They can try to change. They can try to do this. They can try to do that. But you know what? At the end of it, you've already won. You've already beaten them. And once you learn to do that, this entire system stops. We got to stop enabling this abuse to keep going. That's the reality. And again, if anybody wants to talk, contact me on PM and Facebook, or send me an email to robert@yourdogistnotbroken.org. I've been on for 41 minutes now. I'm getting tired, so I'm going to sign out, and I'm going to put a few books in the comment section. Pick and choose if you want to read them or not. And it'll give you understanding. Again, once you understand the subjective part of you, and that's what psychology gets into, because there's no psychology whatsoever to this applied behavior analysis. They don't need any. But yet they're all calling themselves behaviors. Once you understand the power that you have, this whole system stops, and the abuse stops. I'm going to sign out. You have yourself a lovely night.